Procedure pimps out purpose, ship-shifting men into numerals, skilled men to dispensable utensils, a whole life commemorated in 2 seconds of news, a whole life turned a noble man to a loon. Life's work of preservations of morals and culture, just to be devoured by the distributational vultures, peeling you from the fabric of society prior to your pissed-off completion of your purpose. The purpose specifically positioned by the pretentious 1% pricks. Synthetic beauty, Botox and bleach. Mutilated greeting trees, more expenses to meet. Pensions being cut, homeless young people laying on streets. We see for our own, but for others we do not care to achieve.
It wasn't the motorway that bothered her. It was really the scent of the motorway that was repellent. Smells like that seemed like death and tulips, and other kinds of flowers that were no good for eating, but grew up just the same between the cracks in the pavement. She crushed them all down with her melting tires. She flattened every flower in the road. The flowers were markers for the clutch. They were all white and lined up down the middle. I had an adventure once. I was wearing that scarf and standing in the town square, the girl who remembered that day, as vividly as ointment, and tried to remember the scents that swirled around her in the air. When she had that scarf on, a man had stopped her. £5 for the scarf, he had said. No amount of pounds or dollars or crowns would be enough for this scarf. An angel had given it to her.
Tim's living is filling bins. It's dirty, stinking, insipid still. Tim fills bins. It is living, till it twigs. This is grim. Why, thinks Tim, I'm 50, my living is filling bins. Shh! Tim sits. Sips his big gin. His spirits sink. Tim sings, finds it thrilling, rhythmic lyricism filling him. Tim thinks, singing with his kin might fix his spirits. Tim rings his siblings. Ring, 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 ring. Hi, it's Tim. I'm visiting.
I live in a society where young boys cradle death in their hand, where pride is a blood-spilling currency. I live in a society where fragmented screams throb and gush through the blistered darkness. I live in a society where hope is sold at school, but no one is buying it. I live in a society where Princess Di was murdered by media. I live in a society where having a job doesn't save you from poverty. I live in a society where the rich live next to the poor. I live in a society where the scale of racism crescendos the further up you go in the country. I live in a society that teaches girls to be pathetic and boys to be patriotic. I live in a society where adults are enslaved to work until they're 70. I live in a society where the Queen parachuted into a stadium on the people's tax money. I live in a society where politicians decide the life of the middle class in a verbal game of Monopoly.
And I see this man on all fours. The next station arrives. Phew, she survives. You give them a millimetre, they create a metre. There's no space, I'm refusing to get out of my place. One man races me to a seat, but then raises his hands and admits defeat. I move an inch, and all I hear is whinge, whinge, whinge. I can feel myself cringe, cringe, cringe. Another voice booms, mind the gap. I sense the panic, and that many almost fall through the gap. The journey is almost complete. I go to get up from my seat. I try to dodge the suitcases and see a dozen angry faces. I step out of the train, and it begins to rain. I think to myself, never again, until tomorrow, and then it's back to being in sorrow. I step out onto the concrete, and relieved that the journey is complete.